Hello there, and welcome to the AstroSleep channel. I am so glad you found your way here. Tonight, we are going to leave the weight of the world behind. We are going to drift away from the noise, the lights, and the gravity that holds us to the ground. We are embarking on a long, slow journey into the deep, velvet silence of the outer solar system. Maybe you have had a long day. Maybe your mind is still busy with the echoes of conversations, with lists of things to do, with the hustle of the waking world. But here, in this space we have created together, none of that matters. Here, there are no deadlines. There are no demands. There is only the vast, ancient rhythm of the cosmos waiting to cradle you in its stillness. Tonight, we are traveling to the king of the planets. We are setting our course for Jupiter. But this is not a journey of speed or urgency. We are not racing against time. In fact, we are stepping out of time altogether. We are going to float toward that great amber jewel in the dark, exploring its swirling clouds, its hidden oceans, and its silent moons. We will witness the grandest storms in the solar system, but from a distance so safe, so serene that they become nothing more than a lullaby. If these calm, curious explorations help you unwind, I invite you to like or subscribe. It helps other sleepy souls find their way here, too. And now, there is nothing left for you to do but rest. Let us prepare for our departure. I want you to find a comfortable position. Adjust your pillows, pull the covers up to your chin, and let your body sink into the mattress. Feel the support beneath you, holding you up, just as gravity holds the planets in their orbits. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out. With every breath, feel yourself becoming heavier and yet somehow lighter. Let us release the tension from your body. Starting at the very top of your head, imagine a warm, soft light, like the gentle glow of a distant star, touching your forehead. Feel the muscles there smooth out. Let your eyebrows rest. Let your jaw unhinge slightly, releasing any tightness you have been holding there. Let that feeling of relaxation flow down into your neck and into your shoulders. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let them sink down, down, down. Imagine that you are taking off a heavy coat you have been wearing all day, letting it slide off your back, leaving you feeling free and weightless. Let the warmth travel down your arms, past your elbows, to your wrists and your hands. Let your fingers curl naturally, soft and still. Feel your chest rise and fall, slow and steady, like the tides, like the slow orbit of a moon. There is no need to force your breath. Just let it flow, in and out. Let the relaxation move down through your stomach, softening your core. Let your hips settle. Feel the weight of your legs, heavy and warm. Let the feeling flow past your knees, down to your ankles, and all the way to the tips of your toes. You are completely still. You are completely safe. And as your body rests, your mind begins to lift. Imagine for a moment that the room around you is fading away. The walls are dissolving into mist. The ceiling is opening up to reveal a sky filled with infinite stars. You are no longer bound to the earth. You are becoming weightless. You are lifting gently, floating up from your bed, up through the roof, rising higher and higher into the cool, quiet night air. Below you, the world is asleep. You can see the lights of your city or your town, but they are growing smaller, twinkling like little candles in the dark. the sounds of traffic, of voices, of life. They are all fading into a soft hum, and then into silence. You are drifting upward, past the clouds, into the clarity of space. The blue sky deepens into a rich dark indigo, and then into the pure, comforting black of the cosmos. You are safe here. It is not empty. It is spacious. It is a place of infinite room, where your thoughts can expand and then dissolve like mist. Look back for a moment. There is the Earth, a beautiful blue marble hanging in the void. It looks so peaceful from here. All the busyness you left behind is just a swirl of white clouds and blue oceans. You are not leaving it forever, but for now, you are free of it. You are a traveler of the stars. We turn our gaze outward toward the deep dark. We drift past the moon. It is silent and grey, a faithful companion. It watches us pass with a stony stillness, its craters like ancient sleeping eyes. We move beyond it, floating further out. Far ahead, we see a red glimmer. That is Mars. A rusty, dusty ember glowing in the distance. We nod to it as we drift by, leaving the inner solar system behind. Now, we enter a region of scattered stones, the asteroid belt. Millions of rocks, remnants of a planet that never was, drifting silently in the dark. They do not threaten us. In the vastness of space, they are far apart, miles of empty silence between them. We float through them like a ghost, untouched, undisturbed. And then it appears. Out of the darkness, a presence emerges. It is colossal. It is magnificent. Jupiter, the fifth planet from the Sun. It hangs there, a giant sphere of banded light against the black backdrop of eternity. It does not twinkle like a star. It glows with a steady, amber light. It is so large that it seems to curve the space around it, a gravity well of immense power, pulling everything into a slow, graceful dance. Even from this distance, you can feel its ancient gravity. It is not a force that pulls you down. It is a force that anchors you. It is a feeling of stability, a feeling of presence. This is a world of gas and storm, of mystery and history. It has watched over the solar system for billions of years, a silent guardian, a king on a throne of clouds. And tonight, it is your destination. We are approaching slowly. The great bands of clouds, cream, ochre, rust, and white, are beginning to resolve. They stretch across the face of the planet like brushstrokes on a canvas that never dries. We are drifting toward a world that has no surface, no hard ground to hit, only layers and layers of sky, deepening forever. You have arrived at the threshold of the giant. The journey has been long, but you are not tired. You are simply floating, resting in the shadow of this magnificent world. The vacuum of space is silent. There is no wind here to rush in your ears. There is only the sound of your own slow breathing and the feeling of drifting deeper and deeper into the calm. And as we hang here, suspended in the starlight, we begin to see the true nature of this world. We begin to understand why it is the king. We are drifting now in the quiet territories of the outer solar system. Here, the silence is different. It is deeper. It is older. We have traveled far from the blue warmth of Earth, crossing millions of miles of empty, velvet night. We have arrived at the kingdom of the giants. Before us lies Jupiter. To understand this world, we must first understand its solitude. It sits on the outskirts of the asteroid belt, residing in the dim, quiet reaches of space, 5 times further from the Sun than our own home planet. From this distance, the Sun is no longer the overwhelming ball of fire that dominates the Earth's sky. Here, the Sun is smaller, a brilliant, piercing star, a distant hearth whose warmth has faded into a gentle memory. The light that reaches Jupiter is soft and pale, casting long, eternal shadows across the vacuum. In this twilight realm, time itself seems to slow down. On Earth, we are used to the frantic pace of a year that passes in just 365 days. We rush around our star, eager and quick. But Jupiter is in no hurry. It moves with the patience of a king. It takes 12 Earth years for Jupiter to complete just one single journey around the Sun. Imagine that. 12 years of Earth's history hold generations of moments, seasons changing, cities rising and falling. All pass by, while Jupiter completes just one. It wanders through the zodiac with a deliberate, measured pace, a silent sentinel marking the passage of cosmic time. As we float here, suspended in the dark, we can sense the sheer scale of the presence before us. Jupiter is not just a planet. It is a world that defies our sense of proportion. It is the largest planet in our solar family, a colossus of gas and gravity. If you were to gather all the other planets, Saturn with its rings, the ice giants Neptune and Uranus, the rocky worlds of Earth, Venus, Mars and Mercury, and combine them into one, Jupiter would still be 2.5 times more massive than all of them put together. It is truly the sovereign of shadows. It contains within it the history of the solar system's beginning. When our system was forming, billions of years ago, the Sun claimed the vast majority of the dust and gas, igniting into the star we know. But Jupiter was the first of the planets to rise from the remaining swirl of creation. It gathered the leftovers, the hydrogen and the helium that drifted in the cold dark. It grew immense, swallowing up the dust of ages, becoming a sphere so heavy that it dominates everything around it. It is so massive that it challenges the Sun itself. There is a secret dance happening here, a phenomenon of gravity that remains invisible to the eye, but is felt by the very fabric of space. We are taught that planets orbit the Sun. We imagine the Sun sitting perfectly still in the center, while the planets run in circles around it like obedient children. But Jupiter is too heavy for simple obedience. Its gravity is so profound, so influential, that it pulls back on the Sun. It is a relationship of balance, a cosmic waltz. Because of Jupiter's immense mass, the center of gravity between it and the Sun, the point they both orbit around, known as the barycenter, is not inside the Sun. It is actually located above the Sun's surface, floating in space, about 1.68 solar radii from the Sun's center. Think of what that means. As Jupiter swings through its long 12-year orbit, the Sun does not sit still. The Sun wobbles. The Sun leans. The Sun performs a little dance, spiraling gently around that invisible point in space, acknowledging the presence of its giant child. They are like two dancers holding hands, spinning together in the dark. One is radiant and burning, the other is cool and clouded, but they are bound together by an unbreakable, invisible tether. Even the Sun bows to the presence of Jupiter. This gravity is what holds the entire solar system in check. It is a force of stability. On the surface of Jupiter, if such a surface could be said to exist, the pull is over twice as strong as what we feel on Earth. It is a heavy, comforting embrace. It is a gravity that captures wandering stones and wayward comets, holding 67 moons or more in its thrall. It is a shepherd guiding the flock of the outer solar system, keeping the asteroid belt in place and protecting the inner worlds from the chaos of the deep dark. And yet, for all its power, Jupiter is a world of softness. It is not made of rock and stone like the Earth. It does not have mountains that scratch the sky or canyons carved by rivers. It is almost entirely fluid. It is made of the same stuff as the stars, hydrogen and helium. In another life, in another turn of fate, Jupiter might have become a star. It has the right composition, it has the right spirit, but it simply never grew heavy enough to ignite. To become a star like the Sun, it would have needed to be 75 times more massive than it is. So instead of burning, it settled, it cooled. It became the almost star, the brown dwarf that never woke up. It chose the path of quietness. It kept its fires hidden deep inside, wrapped in layers of cloud and mist. As we look at it now, filling our view, we see a world that is still settling. It is shrinking, very slowly, under its own weight. And as it shrinks, it generates heat from within. It glows in the infrared, radiating a warmth into the cold vacuum, a faint internal embers that tells us this planet is alive in its own way. It is a world of contradictions. It is heavy, yet made of air. It is a failed star, yet the king of planets. It is a place of storms, yet from here it looks like a polished marble of amber and cream. We are drifting closer now. The blackness of space is being replaced by the golden glow of the giant. We can start to see the texture of the atmosphere. The darkness is no longer empty. It is filled with the presence of this ancient world. We leave the concept of solid ground behind. There is only the depth. We are about to enter the realm of the clouds. We are about to witness the most beautiful atmosphere in the universe. The sovereign of shadows welcomes us. It does not speak, but its gravity hums a low, resonant note that vibrates in our very bones. It says, "Rest. You are small, and I am large. I have held this space for 4 billion years, and I will hold it for 4 billion more. You can let go." We float forward, carried by the invisible tide, ready to surrender to the beauty of the bands. We have crossed the threshold of distance. The dark void of space has retreated to the edges of our vision, replaced by a wall of majestic, turning light. We are now drifting directly above the cloud tops of Jupiter. If you could look out of a window right now, you would not see a landscape of rock or ocean like the one we left behind on Earth. Instead, you would see a world made entirely of air and motion. You would see a vast spherical canvas where the wind itself is the artist, painting in strokes that are thousands of miles wide, creating a masterpiece that never finishes, a painting that changes with every slow breath of the solar system. These are the ribbons of mist. From our safe vantage point, floating high above the turbulence, the planet appears striped. It is wrapped in bands of alternating colors, parallel lines that stretch all the way around the circumference of the world, hugging the planet in layers of cream, amber, ochre, and brick red. They look like the grain of polished wood, or the layers of sedimentary rock in a deep canyon. But here, the layers are not made of stone, they are made of gas. They are made of cloud. There is a profound order to this beauty. Even though the face of Jupiter can change dramatically over the course of human lifetimes, these bands remain remarkably consistent. They are faithful to their latitudes, like ancient rivers that have carved their path into the very sky. These currents flow east and west, passing each other in a silent, frictionless slide. They have been flowing this way since before the first eyes opened on Earth, and they will likely continue to flow long after we are gone. Let us drift closer and look at the texture of these clouds. It is a realm of ice, but not the heavy, solid ice of our polar caps. This is a delicate, crystalline frost. The main cloud layer that we see is remarkably thin in comparison to the size of the planet, only about 50 kilometers deep. It is a veil, a curtain of ammonia crystals suspended in the atmosphere. Imagine that for a moment, an entire world wrapped in clouds of ammonia ice. These crystals catch the pale light of the distant sun. High up, where the clouds are youngest and freshest, they are pure white. These are the zones, the lighter bands. Here the air is rising, carrying fresh ammonia from the deep interior, cooling as it reaches the vacuum of space, and freezing into brilliant snowy white plumes. They billow up like slow-motion fountains, bright and clean, reflecting the starlight with a pristine, frosty glow. But as we look deeper, we see the darker bands, the belts. Here, the colors shift into warm, earthy tones. We see hues of burnt orange, deep brown, and soft, dusty red. Science tells us that this coloration comes from a process that is almost like alchemy. Deep within the planet, hidden beneath the obscuring clouds, there are chemical compounds heating up. They are warm and buoyant. They rise slowly through the atmosphere, drifting upward like bubbles in honey. These compounds are known as chromophores. When these chromophores reach the top of the atmosphere, they meet the ultraviolet light of the sun. And in that meeting, a quiet transformation occurs. The sunlight gently cooks these chemicals, changing their structure, deepening their color. It is a slow cosmic tanning process. The longer they float there, exposed to the weak solar rays, the richer their colors become. Eventually, these clouds cool and sink back down into the depths, darkening as they descend. So when you look at the bands of Jupiter, you are watching a breathing cycle. The planet is exhaling white clouds, letting them ripen in the sun, and then inhaling them back into the dark. It is a vertical circulation, a slow, rhythmic churning that mixes the chemistry of the deep with the light of the stars. It creates a spectacle of multicolored bands that is unmatched in the solar system. From where we drift, the movement is hypnotic. We can see the boundaries where the bands meet. In these regions, the air is turbulent. The winds are moving in opposite directions, rubbing against each other, creating swirls and eddies that look like paisley patterns woven into a silk scarf. But from this height, we do not feel the violence of the wind. We do not hear the roar of the storms. We only see the elegance of the flow. It looks like marbling. It looks like milk being stirred into coffee, frozen in time, yet constantly moving. The patterns curl and fold over one another, creating intricate knots of storms that spin and dance. Sometimes we can see shadows. The high, white clouds cast long, dark shadows onto the layers below them. This gives the atmosphere a sense of depth. It is not a flat image. It is a three-dimensional sculpture of gas. We can see the towering altitude of the white plumes floating high above the warmer, darker valleys of the lower clouds. It creates a landscape of peaks and troughs, mountains and canyons, but they are mountains that drift and canyons that dissolve and reform. There is a stillness in this motion. It is the stillness of a river. A river is always moving, yet it is always there. The water changes, but the form remains. Jupiter is a river of wind that has wrapped itself into a circle, and there is mystery here too. We drift over regions that defy explanation. We see the pop-up clouds, small white specks that dot the darker bands. They look tiny from here, like scattered pearls, but each one is a storm system larger than a city, perhaps larger than a country. They appear and disappear, rising up to catch the light and then fading back into the mist. The colors soothe us. They are not the harsh, neon colors of the modern world. They are the colors of an old library, of dried leaves, of desert sands at twilight, the ochre, the rust, the cream. They are warm colors, comforting to the eye. As we gaze at these ribbons of mist, we can feel our own thoughts beginning to mimic their flow. The sharp edges of our worries begin to soften. The frantic pace of our thinking begins to slow down, matching the leisurely rotation of the giant. We are no longer rushing from one thought to the next. We are simply drifting, carried along by a current that is wide and deep. We realize that we are looking at a process that has been happening for billions of years. Before humanity existed, these bands were turning. Before the dinosaurs walked the earth, these clouds were rising and sinking. While civilizations rose and fell on our little blue planet, Jupiter continued its long, slow meditation, painting its atmosphere with the brush of gravity and sunlight. It is eternal, or at least it feels that way to us. We are just visitors here, momentary specks of consciousness floating above a timeless ocean of air. And that smallness is a gift. It means we do not have to carry the weight of the universe. The universe carries itself. Jupiter turns, the clouds flow, the colors shift, and all we have to do is watch. We let our eyes trace the lines of the bands. We follow a stream of white ammonia ice as it stretches out, thinning into a wisp, then disappearing into a swirl of brown fog. We follow a knot of red storm as it spins slowly, clockwise, then counterclockwise, a silent gear in a machine made of mist. The atmosphere is deep. We cannot see the bottom. We do not know what lies beneath these obscuring clouds. And that is okay. We do not need to know. The mystery is part of the comfort. It is a blanket. The planet is wrapped in a blanket of secrets, tucked in tight against the cold of space. The heat from within the planet rises up, keeping the cycle going. It is a heartbeat of warmth in the cold vacuum. Even here, so far from the sun, there is energy. There is life, not in the biological sense, but in the geological sense. The planet is alive with motion. And as we drift further along the equator, we begin to see a disturbance in the pattern. Ahead of us, the straight lines of the bands begin to warp. They bend and curve around something. The smooth flow of the river is interrupted by a great turning obstacle. The colors deepen. The red becomes more intense. We are approaching the Eye of the King. We are drifting toward the most famous feature of this giant world. But for now, let us linger just a moment longer on the ribbons. Let us take one last look at the peaceful, parallel lines. Let us breathe in the tranquility of this ordered chaos. The clouds part and close. The mists rise and fall. The planet turns, and we drift on, carried by the gentle gravity toward the great red spot. We are drifting further now, carried along the currents of the southern hemisphere. The parallel lines of the clouds, which have been our guides so far, begin to part. The smooth, uninterrupted flow of the atmosphere is changing. The bands curve and bend like a river flowing around a great submerged stone. The colors deepen. The creamy whites and soft browns give way to a shade of intense, rusty red. We have arrived at the presence. We are hovering before the great red spot. From a distance, it looks like an eye. It is a vast, unblinking oval, staring out into the eternal black of space. But as we draw closer, we realize it is not watching us with intent. It is not an eye of judgment or surveillance. It is an eye in deep meditation. It is an eye that is dreaming. This is the largest storm in the solar system, but the word storm feels too harsh, too chaotic for what we are witnessing from this height. A storm on Earth is a thing of violence, of crashing thunder and tearing wind. But here, on this colossal scale, the violence is smoothed out by distance and time. What we see is a majestic turning wheel. It rotates counterclockwise, a slow hypnotic pirouette that takes 6 Earth days to complete, just one full turn. It is an anticyclone, a region of high pressure that has stood firm against the chaotic winds of the planet for centuries. It is a mountain of air, rising higher than the surrounding clouds, towering over the rest of the atmosphere like a plateau. Let us pause here and contemplate the sheer scale of this sleeping giant. It is immense. It is so wide that you could take the entire planet Earth, our whole home, with all its oceans, all its continents, all its cities and forests, and place it gently inside the boundaries of this spot. The Earth would fit with room to spare. Imagine that. All the noise of humanity, all our history, all our worries, could be swallowed up by this one crimson oval, tucked away safely within its turning winds. It puts everything into perspective. In the face of such vastness, our own troubles seem incredibly small. They dissolve into nothingness, lost in the slow red tide. This spot is ancient. It is a permanent resident of the Jovian sky. We have known of its existence since the very first astronomers pointed their telescopes at the heavens in the 17th century. People with glass lenses and brass tubes, standing in dark observatories hundreds of years ago, saw this same red eye looking back at them. Generations of humans have been born, lived, and passed away, and all the while, the great red spot has continued to turn. It is a monument made of wind. It is a testament to endurance. It reminds us that there are things in this universe that last, things that persist through the ages, steady and unwavering. As we look at the color, we see that it is not a uniform red. It is a complex palette. The center is a deep, dark brick red, almost brown. The outer edges fade into lighter hues, blending with the white clouds that rush past it. Why is it red? It is a question that astronomers have pondered for centuries. The leading theory is a poetic one. Because this storm rises so high, towering above the rest of the cloud deck, it reaches up closer to the sun. The chemical compounds inside it, ammonia and acetylene, are lifted up and exposed to the ultraviolet light of the stars. They are, in a sense, sunburnt. The sun kisses the top of the storm, turning the chemicals into this rich, ruddy color. It is a bruise of light. It is the color of a sunset that never ends, trapped in a perpetual circle. Sometimes the color changes. Over the decades, the spot has shifted from a pale salmon pink to a bright, angry red, and then to a soft brownish white. It pulses with the rhythm of the sun and the internal chemistry of the planet. It is alive, shifting its mood, breathing in the solar wind. And it is not just a surface phenomenon. This is not a shallow feature painted on the clouds. The data from our spacecraft, the silent observers like Juno, tell us that the roots of this storm go deep. It extends hundreds of kilometers down into the atmosphere, deeper than our oceans on Earth. It is a pillar of heat and motion. At its base, it is warmer than the surroundings, a heat engine that drives the rotation from below. It is the heart of the southern hemisphere. If we look closely at the edges of the spot, we can see the interaction with the rest of the world. The winds here are fast, but from our vantage point, they look like silk ribbons being pulled tight. Smaller storms, little white vortices, sometimes drift too close. They are caught in the current. They spiral in, merging with the great red body, feeding it, becoming part of the greater whole. It does not destroy them so much as it absorbs them. It is a gathering place, a place of unity. And interestingly, the great red spot is not alone. If we drift just a little way along the band, we might see a smaller, similar shape. This is Red Spot Junior, or Oval BA. It is the younger sibling, the heir apparent. This younger storm has a story of its own. It was born not from ancient times, but in the recent past, between the years of 1998 and 2000. It began as 3 separate white storms, 3 smaller vortices that drifted together. They danced around each other, closer and closer, until they merged into one. A trinity becoming a unity. At first, it was white, but as it grew strong, as its winds picked up speed and it rose higher into the atmosphere, it too began to turn red. It too was touched by the sun. Now it follows the great red spot, drifting past it in a slow, respectful race. They pass each other occasionally, 2 red giants nodding to one another in the dark, but they do not collide. They pass unscathed, continuing their eternal journey. Watching this motion is like watching a campfire or the waves on the shore. It is repetitive, but never boring. It is the rhythm of nature. Round and round it goes. There is no beginning, and there is no end. It is a cradle. Imagine yourself lying in the center of that great slow turn. The winds at the edge are fast, but in the very center, in the eye of the storm, there is a calm, a quiet place, a sanctuary suspended in the sky. You are protected there. The gravity of the planet holds you down. The walls of wind hold the world at bay, and the roof is the open, starry universe. The great red spot is shrinking, they say. It is smaller now than it was 100 years ago. Perhaps one day, centuries from now, it will fade away entirely. Perhaps the eye will finally close, and the sleeper will wake. But that is a story for the distant future. For tonight, for this moment, it is here. It is solid. It is present. It is a comforting thought, isn't it? That while we sleep, while we go about our small, busy lives, there is a storm the size of Earth spinning silently in the dark, millions of miles away. It requires nothing from us. It does not ask for our attention. It simply is. It is a sentinel of the night, a lighthouse with a red beam that shines not outward, but inward, illuminating the mysteries of the atmosphere. As we drift away from the spot, leaving it to its solitude, we feel a sense of peace. We have looked into the eye of the king, and we have found only quietness. The red fades into the distance, becoming a soft, rosy glow in the mist. We turn our gaze forward again. The atmosphere is changing. The light is shifting. We are about to look at this world in a way that human eyes were never meant to see. We are about to strip away the visible layer and see the heat that glows within. We are moving toward the invisible light. We have spent our time gazing at the face of the king. We have traced the lines of the ammonia clouds and watched the great red eye turn in its sleep. But there is more to this world than what the eye can see. To truly understand Jupiter, to truly feel its presence, we must look deeper. We must close our physical eyes and open the eyes of our imagination. We must shift our vision into the realms of the invisible. We are entering the world of the infrared and the ultraviolet. We are stepping into the unseen light. If we were to look at Jupiter now, not through the glass of a telescope, but through the lens of heat, the planet would transform before us. The familiar stripes of cream and brown would fade away. In the cold expanse of space, far from the warmth of the sun, you might expect a planet to be a frozen dead rock. But Jupiter is full of surprises. Jupiter is warm. It is, in many ways, like a dying ember in a dark fireplace. It is still holding on to the heat of its creation. It is slowly, ever so slowly, contracting under its own immense weight. And as it shrinks, it generates heat. It radiates warmth out into the vacuum, glowing like a lantern in the night. In fact, it gives off more energy than it receives from the distant sun. Imagine the planet as a heart that is still beating, warm and alive. In this infrared view, the clouds become translucent curtains. We can see the heat escaping from deep within the interior. The dark belts we saw before suddenly become bright ribbons of fire. Cracks in the cloud deck where the internal warmth shines through. The white zones, those thick, high clouds of ammonia ice, become dark silhouettes, blocking the light from below. Like heavy blankets keeping the heat inside. It is a complete inversion of the world we thought we knew. The dark becomes light. The light becomes dark. We are looking at the silhouette of a soul. We can see the great red spot in a new way too. In the infrared, it is dark, a cold mountain of thick clouds that blocks the heat from below. It stands out as a patch of cool shadow on a glowing world. But the most breathtaking sight awaits us at the top of the world. Let us drift upward, leaving the equator behind, and float over the poles. This is a view that humanity was denied for a long time. It was only when the traveler Juno arrived, dancing its dangerous dance over the poles, that we finally saw what was hiding there. The poles are not striped like the rest of the planet. The order of the bands breaks down here. In the infrared, the poles are a garden of storms. At the North Pole, we see a geometric wonder. There is a single large cyclone in the center, and surrounding it are 8 other storms. They are arranged in a perfect circle, like the petals of a cosmic flower, or sapphires set in a royal ring. They spin together, touching but never merging, a stable, eternal dance of 8 around 1. At the South Pole, the pattern changes. Here, 5 great storms circle a central vortex, a pentagon of wind. Why they arrange themselves this way is a mystery that the wind keeps to itself. We simply watch the glowing shapes spin in the dark, mesmerizing and symmetrical. It is order emerging from chaos. It is a kaleidoscope the size of Earth's, turning slowly for no one but the stars to see. And then there is the crown. Jupiter is a king, and like all kings, it wears a crown. But this crown is not made of gold or jewels. It is made of light. It is made of electricity. We are speaking of the auroras. On Earth, we have the northern lights, gentle curtains of green and pink that dance over the ice. They are beautiful, but they are whispers compared to the shout of Jupiter. Jupiter's auroras are the most powerful in the solar system. They are 1,000 times brighter, 1,000 times more vast. They do not fade with the seasons. They are a permanent feature, a halo of fire that never goes out. In the ultraviolet spectrum, they shine with an electric intensity. They are loops and swirls of violet, neon blue, and invisible fire. They crown the poles, crackling with the energy of the magnetic field. This light is born from a connection. Jupiter is holding hands with the deep space around it. Its magnetic field, immense and invisible, reaches out millions of miles, catching the particles of the solar wind, catching the volcanic dust from its moon Io. It funnels them down toward the poles, smashing them into the atmosphere. We can even see the footprints of the moons in this light. If we look closely at the aurora, we can see bright spots moving within the ring. These are the flux tubes, an invisible tether connecting the moons Io, Europa, and Ganymede to the planet. As the moons orbit, they send an electric current down to Jupiter, lighting up a specific point in the aurora. It is as if the moons are writing their names on the planet's sky, signing their presence in light. There is a spot, the Great Blue Spot, a concentration of magnetic force near the equator. It is invisible to the eye, but to the sensors it is a beacon, a knot in the magnetic web that pulses and shifts over centuries. As we float here, bathed in the concept of this unseen light, we realize that the darkness of space is not empty. It is filled with fields and forces, with rivers of magnetism and heat. We are swimming in an ocean of energy. The visible world, the clouds, the red spot, the colors, is just the skin of the planet. But this heat, this magnetic hum, this auroral crown, this is its pulse. This is its breath. It feels protective. The magnetic field of Jupiter is a shield. It is a vast bubble in space, deflecting the solar wind, creating a safe harbor for its moons. Inside this bubble, radiation flows like a river. To a spacecraft, it might be dangerous, but to us, in our dream state, it is just another form of warmth. It is the plasma torus, a donut of charged particles that sings in the radio spectrum. If we could hear radio waves, Jupiter would not be silent. It would be singing. It would be a chorus of whistles, clicks, and deep, resonant hums. It is the loudest voice in the planetary choir. But here, in the silence of our journey, we translate that noise into a feeling of power, a feeling of greatness. The king sits on his throne of clouds, crowned in violet light, glowing with internal warmth, humming a song of magnetism to the void. We are small specks of consciousness floating in his court, and in the presence of such magnitude, we feel a strange sense of belonging. We are part of the same universe that created this wonder. The same atoms that make up the auroras, we are connected to the giant. We let the invisible light wash over us. We let the heat warm our imagination. The view begins to fade. The infrared glow softens. The electric blues of the aurora dim down to a gentle pulse. We are ready to look outward again. We are ready to turn our backs on the giant for a moment and look at the family that surrounds it. We are ready to remember a time when this gentle giant showed its strength, not just as a king, but as a protector. We drift toward the memory of a comet. We drift toward the story of the silent guardian. We float now in the shadow of the king, feeling the immense gravity that hums through the fabric of space. We have seen the beauty of the clouds, and we have felt the warmth of the internal fire. But there is another side to Jupiter, a side that is not about beauty, but about strength. It is a side that speaks of protection. In the vast open silence of the solar system, we often feel that we are alone, drifting on our little blue boat called Earth. But we are not alone. We have a big brother. We have a guardian standing watch in the outer dark. Jupiter is more than just a planet. It is a shield. Because of its colossal size, Jupiter possesses a gravity that is truly influential. It reaches out across millions of miles, touching every other object in the solar family. It is like a shepherd, guiding the flock of asteroids, keeping them in their places. Scientists have called Jupiter the cosmic vacuum cleaner. It is a humble name for such a majestic role. What it means is that Jupiter uses its gravity to sweep the solar system clean. It pulls in dangerous objects, long-period comets, stray asteroids, the wandering stones of the dark. It either flings them out of the solar system entirely, sending them back into the interstellar night, or it draws them into itself. It takes the blows so that we do not have to. Some believe that without Jupiter standing there, acting as a magnet for these cosmic travelers, life on Earth might never have had the chance to evolve. We might have been bombarded again and again, but the giant was there. It cleared the path. It created a quiet space in the inner solar system where life could bloom in safety. We are safe because he is strong. And there is a memory of this strength, a memory etched into the history of the stars not so long ago. Let us drift back in time to the summer of 1994. It was a time when the eyes of the entire world turned upward. Astronomers and dreamers alike watched in amazement as a visitor approached the king. This visitor was a comet, known to us as Shoemaker-Levy 9, but it was not a typical comet. It did not have a single solid heart. It had been captured by Jupiter's gravity some time before, and the immense tidal forces of the planet had gently pulled it apart. It had become a string of pearls. Imagine that image. A chain of 21 fragments, 21 glowing jewels of ice and dust, traveling in a perfect line through the darkness. They were not tumbling in chaos. They were moving in formation, a procession of travelers coming to meet the monarch. They were not orbiting the sun anymore. They belonged to Jupiter. For days the world held its breath. We had never witnessed a collision of two planetary bodies in real time. We did not know what to expect. Would it be violent? Would it be silent? When the moment came, it was a display of awe-inspiring power. The fragments arrived, one by one. They did not strike the surface, for there is no surface to strike. They dove into the atmosphere. They plunged into the clouds at incredible speeds, traveling at over 200,000 kilometers per hour. But the planet did not shudder. It simply accepted them. As each fragment entered the deep, thick blankets of air, it released its energy. It blossomed into a flash of light. The largest fragment, fragment G, released an energy equivalent to 600 times the world's entire nuclear arsenal at the time. It was a colossal release of light, a firework display that lit up the Jovian night. Plumes of debris rose up, climbing 3,000 kilometers above the cloud tops, reaching out into space like fingers of dust. And then, the planet continued to turn. In the aftermath, Jupiter wore the memory of this meeting. Where the fragments had entered, they left dark marks. These were not craters in the ground, but bruises in the sky. Huge, dark patches of disturbed atmosphere, darker than the Great Red Spot, appeared on the face of the planet. Some of these scars were as large as the Earth itself. For months, they lingered. They rotated with the planet, a visible reminder of the event. They were like medals. They were evidence that the Guardian had done its job. It had caught the comet. It had absorbed the impact. It had taken the fire into its own body and extinguished it with its vast ocean of clouds. And in that act of absorption, something beautiful happened. The comet was not just destroyed, it was integrated. It brought gifts. The spectroscopic eyes of our telescopes saw that the comet fragments carried water. They carried heavy elements, silicon, iron, magnesium. The comet delivered these materials to Jupiter, seeding the upper atmosphere with new chemistry. It was a merger. The traveler became part of the host. The ice of the comet became the steam of the planet. Today, those scars have faded. The winds of Jupiter, those eternal flowing ribbons we admired earlier, have healed the wounds. The dark spots have dissolved, mixing into the bands, becoming part of the endless flow. The planet has returned to its perfect amber stillness. But the story remains. It reminds us of the rare Earth hypothesis. The idea that our existence here, on this quiet green world, is owed to a unique set of conditions. And one of those conditions is the presence of a giant neighbor. We sleep soundly in our beds because Jupiter is awake. It patrols the boundary of the solar system. It is a gravity well that says, "Come to me." It draws the danger away from the center. Even now, as we drift near it, we can feel that protective embrace. The gravity that holds the 67 moons is the same gravity that keeps our own path clear. It creates a sense of profound gratitude. We look at this massive world, swirling with its storms and its secrets, and we do not see a monster. We see a fortress. We see a wall of clouds that stands between us and the unpredictable dark. The vacuum cleaner is a humble name, but the job is noble. As we float here, we can almost imagine the planet humming with a deep, resonant satisfaction. It has gathered so much over the billions of years. It has gathered the dust of the primordial nebula. It has gathered the wandering asteroids. It has gathered the comets. It is the keeper of the solar system's history. And now, we turn our attention to the things that Jupiter has decided to keep, not by absorbing them, but by holding them close. We turn our eyes to the jewels of the kingdom. Surrounding this giant are 4 great moons, the Galilean moons. They are worlds in their own right, each one unique, each one a masterpiece of nature. They dance around their parent, protected by his magnetic field, warmed by his tidal grip. We are going to visit them. We are going to drift from the gas giant to the solid worlds. First, we will travel to the closest one, a world of fire and color, a world that is alive with the pulse of the underground. We are setting our course for Io. We turn our gaze now from the amber clouds of the Father to the dancing children that surround him. There are many moons here, dozens of silent stones circling in the dark, but there are 4 that stand apart, the Galilean moons. And the closest of them, the one that skims the very edge of the giant's atmosphere, is a world unlike any other. We are drifting toward Io. As it comes into view, the first thing that strikes us is the color. In a universe that is often painted in shades of gray, black, and ice blue, Io is a shock of brilliance. It is a vibrant jewel set against the velvet night. It glows with hues of lemon yellow, rusty orange, burnt ochre, and snowy white. It does not look like a dead rock. It looks like a piece of modern art, or perhaps a fruit ripening in the void. Some have poetically likened its appearance to a giant pizza, a playful description for such a complex world. But the colors tell a deeper story. They tell the story of a world that is constantly painting itself. Io is the most volcanically active body in the entire solar system. But do not let that thought disturb your peace. From our safe distance, we do not feel the heat or the tremor of the ground. We only see the majesty of the process. We are witnessing the heartbeat of a moon. On Earth, our volcanoes are sleepy giants, but on Io, the fire never sleeps. There are hundreds of volcanoes here, scattered across the surface like hearths in a grand hall. Because of this constant activity, Io has no craters. The scars of ancient asteroid impacts, which pockmark our own moon and tell the history of billions of years, are erased here. Every time a volcano sighs, it covers the land in a fresh coat of lava and ash. Io is a world that is forever young, forever washing its face, forever renewing its skin. Let us drift closer and watch one of these eruptions. Imagine a fountain, but this is not a fountain of water. It is a fountain of dust and gas. Because the gravity on Io is low and the atmosphere is thin, the plumes from these volcanoes rise incredibly high. They climb hundreds of kilometers into the black sky, reaching up like silent gray trees. At the top of their arc, they spread out, forming the shape of an umbrella or a jellyfish, before drifting slowly, gently back down to the surface. It is a slow-motion snowfall of sulfur. We can see the volcano named Pele. It throws a plume 300 kilometers high, creating a vast red ring around it on the ground where the material lands. It is not violent from here. It is graceful. It is a geological ballet. And there is Tavashtar, a volcano near the North Pole. When the spacecraft New Horizons flew past, it saw Tavashtar in full bloom, a massive plume catching the sunlight, glowing like a beacon in the dark. Why is this small moon so alive? Why does it have so much fire inside? The answer lies in a cosmic embrace. Io is caught in a gravitational tug-of-war. On one side, there is the immense, overwhelming gravity of Jupiter, pulling Io inward. On the other side, there are its sister moons, Europa and Ganymede. They move in a rhythmic dance called an orbital resonance. For every time Ganymede orbits once, Europa orbits twice, and Io orbits 4 times. This precise timing means they line up again and again, tugging on Io, pulling it slightly out of its circular path, stretching its orbit into an oval. As Io moves closer to Jupiter, The giant planet's gravity stretches the moon, pulling it into the shape of an egg. As it moves further away, the moon relaxes back into a sphere. Stretch and relax. Stretch and relax. This happens every 42.5 hours, the length of Io's short, fast year. Imagine a piece of wire that you bend back and forth in your hands. After a while, the wire gets hot. This is what is happening to Io. The solid rock of the moon is being kneaded by gravity. The friction of the rocks rubbing against each other deep inside creates heat, immense heat. So, the volcanoes of Io are not powered by a dying core like Mars or the moon. They are powered by the dance. They are powered by the energy of its orbit. It is a moon kept warm by the movement of the solar system itself. Even in the cold depths of space, there is warmth generated by connection. On the surface we see vast lakes, but these are not lakes of water. They are lakes of molten lava. We drift over Loki Patera, the largest of these lakes, 200 kilometers across. It is a dark, warm sea of obsidian glass. Sometimes the crust on top of the lake becomes too heavy and sinks, overturning in a slow, majestic wave that travels across the lake, revealing the glowing liquid beneath. It glows like an ember. It breathes heat into the night. The surface of Io is painted with frosts. Sulfur dioxide, invisible as a gas, freezes on the ground into white patches. So we have rivers of red lava flowing next to fields of white frost, fire and ice existing side by side. And the connection between Io and Jupiter goes even deeper than gravity. It is electric. As Io orbits, it moves through Jupiter's powerful magnetic field. It acts like an electrical generator. The volcanoes spew out tons of material every second, filling the space around Io with a cloud of particles. These particles become charged. They form a donut shape around Jupiter, called the plasma torus. And connecting Io to the poles of Jupiter is the flux tube. It is an invisible current, a river of electricity that flows through space. It carries millions of amps of current. If we could see it, it would look like a glowing umbilical cord connecting the child to the parent. Where this current hits Jupiter's atmosphere, it creates a bright spot in the aurora, a footprint that moves as Io moves. Io is literally singing to Jupiter in the language of light. It is a world of intensity, yes. The radiation here is strong. The environment is harsh. But from our dream state perspective, we see it as a place of vibrant life force. It reminds us that the universe is not stagnant. Even stones can be alive with motion. Even cold rock can be melted by the rhythm of a dance. Io is the fire of the Jovian system. It is the harp. But as we leave this colorful, active world behind, we turn our faces towards something different. We seek a different kind of beauty. We leave the fire and the sulfur, and we drift outward, toward the second moon. We're moving from a world of volcanoes to a world of ice. We are moving from the red and yellow to the pure, cracked white of a frozen pearl. We are going to a place where the ocean is not made of lava, but of water. A hidden sea that whispers of possibilities. We drift away from Io, watching its plumes fade into the distance like little puffs of smoke, and set our course for Europa. We leave behind the fire of Io. We leave the yellow sulfur plumes and the glowing lava lakes, allowing them to fade into the distance like a warm memory. We turn our ship outward, drifting further into the quiet dark. Ahead of us, emerging from the shadow of Jupiter, is a sphere of pure, radiant white. It shines with a brilliance that rivals the stars. It catches the pale sunlight and reflects it back with a gentle, milky glow. We have arrived at Europa. If Io is the fire of the system, Europa is the ice. It is the second of the Galilean moons, slightly smaller than our own moon. Yet it holds a mystery far greater than its size suggests. As we float closer, we are struck by the smoothness of this world. Most ancient bodies in the solar system are scarred. They are pockmarked with thousands of craters, the record of 1 billion years of collisions. But Europa is different. Its face is remarkably unblemished. There are very few craters here, less than 50 significant ones across the entire globe. This smoothness tells us something profound. It tells us that this world is young. Not in age, for it was born with the solar system, but in skin. The surface we are looking at is constantly renewing itself, erasing the past, smoothing over the rough edges of history. It is the smoothest object in the solar system. It looks like a polished marble or a perfect pearl resting on black velvet. But this pearl is not flawless. It is covered in intricate markings. As we drift over the equator, we see them. Long, wandering lines that crisscross the surface in every direction. They look like veins. They look like the cracks in an antique porcelain vase, or the trails of a map leading to nowhere. These are called lineae. They are fractures in the ice, some of them extending for thousands of kilometers, wrapping around the moon like ribbons. They are not deep canyons, but shallow grooves painted in shades of reddish brown. Science tells us that these lines are created by the same tidal dance that heats Io. As Europa orbits Jupiter, the immense gravity of the planet pulls on it. But because Europa's orbit is slightly oval, the gravity stretches and relaxes the moon, flexing it.
Imagine the ice breathing.
In and out. Expand and contract. Under this gentle massage, the hard shell of ice cracks. It pulls apart, just a little. And when it does, warmer material from below, soft ice, or perhaps water mixed with salts, wells up to fill the gap. It rises like a salve, healing the wound. The reddish color comes from salts and sulfur, perhaps touched by the radiation of Jupiter, turning the white ice into a beautiful rusty calligraphy. It is as if the moon is writing its own story, over and over again, in a language we are only just beginning to read. But the true wonder of Europa is not what is on the outside. It is what lies beneath. The ice shell is just a veil. It is a roof, perhaps 15 to 25 kilometers thick. It is solid and cold, harder than granite at these temperatures. But below that frozen ceiling, hidden from the cold vacuum of space, protected from the radiation, lies a secret, a global ocean. We believe there is a layer of liquid water that wraps around the entire moon. It is immense. This hidden ocean is likely 60 to 150 kilometers deep. Pause for a moment and think of the depth of Earth's oceans. The deepest trench on our planet is only about 11 kilometers down. Europa's ocean is 10 times deeper. It is so vast that, even though Europa is only a quarter of the size of Earth, it holds twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. It is a water world, disguised as an ice world. In our minds, let us dive down. Let us slip through one of those cracks in the ice, dissolving like a thought, and sink into the depths. We leave the starlight behind. We enter a realm of absolute darkness. But it is not a cold, dead darkness. It is a heavy, holding darkness. The pressure builds, holding us in a tight embrace. Here, in the deep, the water is liquid. It flows, it circulates. We float down mile after mile through the silent currents, and finally, we reach the bottom. On other icy moons, the ocean might sit on top of another layer of ice, but on Europa, scientists believe the ocean floor is made of rock. The water touches the silicate mantle. This contact is crucial. It means that the heat from the moon's core, the heat generated by that tidal flexing, can escape into the water. Imagine the floor of this alien sea. There might be hydrothermal vents, little chimneys of rock releasing heat and minerals into the dark water, plumes of warmth rising up, looking like underwater smoke. On Earth, in the deepest, darkest parts of our oceans, places where the sun never shines, we find life huddled around these vents. We find ecosystems that do not need sunlight. They rely on the heat of the planet. They rely on chemistry. Could the same thing be happening here? We do not know. But the possibility hangs in the water like a promise. Europa has all the ingredients. It has water, it has organic chemistry, it has energy. It is the most promising cradle for life beyond our home planet. But it is a slow life. A quiet life. Simple organisms, perhaps, drifting in the thermal currents, drawing warmth from the stone, unaware of the universe above the ice. They live in a womb that has been sealed for billions of years. It is a peaceful thought that in this cold solar system, there is a warm heart beating under the ice. A sanctuary where life might be sleeping, safe from the asteroids, safe from the radiation, safe from the storms. Sometimes, the ocean tries to speak to the surface. We have seen plumes of water vapor erupting from the south pole of Europa, tall geysers of mist reaching 200 kilometers into space. The moon is exhaling. It is spraying its secrets out into the void, a fine mist of water that freezes instantly into diamond dust. These plumes remind us that the shell is not a barrier, it is a boundary that breathes. The atmosphere of Europa is incredibly thin, a tenuous whisper of oxygen. It is not air we could breathe, but it is there. It is created by the sunlight and particles striking the ice, releasing oxygen atoms to float freely for a while before drifting away. As we ascend back up through the ice, returning to our vantage point in space, we look at Europa with new eyes. We no longer see just a white ball. We see a container, a treasure chest. The chaos terrains, those patches of jumbled, broken ice that look like puzzle pieces tilted and turned, now make sense. They are places where the ocean has risen close to the surface, melting the crust from below, shifting the ice blocks before freezing them again. They are windows into the deep. We float above the Puil crater, a splash of bright white rays against the darker plains. It looks like a flower frozen in time. The beauty of Europa is in its duality. It is fire and ice working together, the fire of gravity warming the core, and the ice of space sealing the surface. It is a world of waiting. NASA's Europa Clipper and ESA's JUICE missions are on their way, traveling through the long dark to visit this world. They will not land, but they will fly by, listening to the magnetic hum, tasting the particles in the plumes, trying to understand the depth of the ocean without ever touching the water. But for now, Europa keeps its secrets. It spins silently, a white enigma. We feel a sense of reverence here. We are in the presence of a potential miracle. Whether that ocean is empty or full, it is a place of wonder. It is a place where water, the elixir of life, has found a way to survive in the vacuum. We linger for a moment longer, watching the light glint off the icy ridges. We imagine the sound of the ice shifting, a deep, resonant groan that travels through the crust, the sound of a world stretching in its sleep. And then, slowly, we let the white pearl drift away. We turn our gaze to the next destination. We are moving outward, to the third moon. We are going to the giant of the moons, a world so large it could have been a planet, a world that has its own magnetic shield. We are setting our course for Ganymede. We have visited the fire of Io and the ice of Europa. Now the currents of gravity carry us further outward, away from the intense radiation belts, into a calmer, quieter region of space. Ahead of us looms a shape that commands respect. It is not just a moon. It is a world that rivals the planets themselves. We are approaching Ganymede. This is the king of the moons. It is the largest moon in the entire solar system. It is a behemoth, so vast that if it were orbiting the Sun on its own, instead of orbiting Jupiter, we would call it a planet without hesitation. Its volume is even larger than that of the planet Mercury. As we drift into its shadow, we feel a sense of immense stability. Ganymede is named after the cupbearer of the gods, the one who brought water and nectar to the Olympians. And the name is fitting, for this world is heavy with water. It is a world of ice and rock, a frozen giant holding a vast reservoir of secrets. But there is something else here, something invisible, that makes Ganymede unique among all the moons in the solar system. As we cross into its territory, our instruments, and perhaps our own inner senses, pick up a change in the environment. We are not just feeling the magnetic field of Jupiter anymore. We are feeling a resistance, a bubble, a shield within a shield. Ganymede has its own magnetic field. It is the only moon known to possess one. Somewhere deep inside its center, buried under thousands of miles of ice and rock, there is a heart of liquid iron, a metallic core that is still hot, still churning, still generating a dynamo. It hums with a silent electric song, pushing back against the overwhelming power of Jupiter, carving out a small, safe space of its own in the magnetic storm. Because of this field, Ganymede has its own auroras. If we look at the poles of this moon, we might see them. Faint, glowing ribbons of ultraviolet light dancing over the ice. They are tethered to the moon, swaying gently. Hubble watched these auroras and noticed they did not wobble as much as expected. This steadiness hinted at something below the surface, a salty ocean acting as an anchor, creating magnetic friction. So, even from space, the light tells us about the water. The surface of Ganymede is a study in contrasts. It is a patchwork world. About a third of it is dark, deep brown, and covered in craters. These are the ancient regions, pieces of the crust that have remained unchanged for 4 billion years, collecting the scars of cosmic history. But the other, 2/3, are lighter. They are brighter, and they are covered in strange, beautiful patterns. We see long, parallel grooves and ridges stretching for hundreds of kilometers. They look like the furrows in a plowed field, or the tracks of a giant rake dragged across the ice. These are the signs of a world that has stretched and pulled apart. Tectonic forces, driven by the same tidal heating that warms Io and Europa, have broken the crust here, creating lanes of fresh ice. It is a texture that invites the eye to wander, ridge after ridge, valley after valley, a frozen landscape of endless complexity. When the spacecraft Juno flew past in 2021, skimming just 1,000 kilometers above the surface, it sent back images that took our breath away. We saw the texture of the ice in crisp, stunning detail. We saw craters with bright white rays of ejecta, splashes of fresh ice thrown out onto the darker ground. We even saw the night side, using its navigation camera designed to track the stars. Juno peered into the darkness and saw the ghostly glow of the moon, illuminated by Jupiter's shine. In that dim light, Ganymede looked like a sleeping giant, peaceful and grey, its scars softened by the shadows. Like Europa, Ganymede hides an ocean. But this ocean is different. It is trapped much deeper, perhaps 100 kilometers down, under a crust of ice so thick it is hard to comprehend. The ocean itself is vast, containing more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. But the pressure here is immense. At the bottom of this deep sea, the water might not touch rock. The pressure is so great that it might crush the water back into a solid, creating a layer of high-pressure ice at the seafloor. So, the ocean of Ganymede might be a sandwich, water trapped between layers of ice, a floating sea in the dark. While this might make it harder for life to cling to the thermal vents on the bottom, it does not diminish the wonder. A layered ocean, hidden inside a magnetic moon, orbiting a gas giant. The complexity of nature is endless. Recently, we learned that Ganymede is leaking water into the void. For years we thought the thin atmosphere was just oxygen, but when we looked closer at the data from Hubble, we found water vapor. The icy surface turns directly into gas near the equator when the sun hits it, creating a tenuous veil of moisture around the moon. The cupbearer is indeed spilling its water, offering it to the sky. As we drift here, suspended in the magnetic embrace of the moon, we remember that Ganymede is part of a choir. It is locked in that beautiful orbital resonance with Europa and Io. One orbit of Ganymede takes 7 Earth days. In that time, Europa goes around twice and Io goes around 4 times. 1, 2, 4. A perfect musical ratio. Every time they pass each other, they tug gently. It is a gravitational knot, a rhythmic pulse that keeps their orbits eccentric, that keeps their hearts warm. Ganymede is the conductor of this orchestra, the slow, steady bass note that anchors the melody of the inner moons. There is a sense of maturity here. Io is the wild, energetic child. Europa is the mysterious, whispering dreamer. But Ganymede is the elder. It is solid. It is shielded. It has a history written on its face, in dark terrain and bright grooves. It feels safe to linger here. We can imagine standing on the surface of Ganymede. The gravity here is weak compared to Earth, but strong compared to the other moons. We would feel light, but grounded. Looking up, Jupiter would dominate the sky. It would appear enormous, filling your vision with its swirling bands and its great red spot. You would see the other moons dancing around it, tiny beads of light against the amber clouds. And you would be protected. The magnetic field of Ganymede would deflect some of the radiation, creating a small haven. This moon is a destination, The European Space Agency's JUICE mission is heading here, aiming to enter orbit around Ganymede in the 2030s. It will be the first time humanity has ever orbited a moon other than our own. We are drawn to this giant, compelled to understand how a moon can act like a planet. But for now, we leave the questions to the future. We are content to just drift, to float over the dark, cratered plains of Galileo Regio, to glide over the bright, grooved terrain of Uruk-Sulcus, to feel the hum of the magnetic field vibrating through the soles of our feet. The giant turns slowly beneath us. 7 days for a sunrise, 7 days for a sunset, a slow, majestic rhythm that lulls us deeper into relaxation. We have seen the fire, we have seen the water, we have seen the magnet. Now, we must travel to the edge. We must go to the outermost of the great moons, to the one that stands apart, to the one that has watched the solar system longer than any other. We are drifting toward the silent, scarred witness. We are setting our course for Callisto. We have traveled far. We have felt the heat of Io, touched the smooth ice of Europa, and sensed the magnetic hum of Ganymede. Now, we drift even further out. We are moving to the edge of the king's domain. The gravity of Jupiter is softer here, a gentle tether rather than a tight grip. We are nearly 2 million kilometers away from the planet. The radiation belts, those intense rivers of energy that flow around the inner moons, do not reach this far. Here, the space is quiet. Here we find the oldest soul in the system. We are approaching Callisto. As it emerges from the dark, it looks different from its siblings. It is not bright and white like Europa. It is not yellow and red like Io. It is a mix of charcoal and diamond. It is a dark, speckled world, glittering with thousands of points of light. Callisto is the third largest moon in the solar system, almost the size of the planet Mercury. But it does not behave like a planet. It behaves like a memory. This is the mirror of time. If you want to know what the solar system looked like when it was just a baby, 4 billion years ago, you look at Callisto. Its surface is the most ancient of any known world. It has remained frozen in state, unchanged, untouched by the erasing hand of volcanoes or tectonic plates. On Earth, wind and water wash away our history. On Io, lava buries the past. On Europa, the ice shifts and heals. But Callisto remembers everything. It is covered in craters. It is the most heavily cratered object we have ever seen. There is almost no space left on its surface that doesn't hold a mark of the past. If a new meteor were to hit it today, it would likely have to erase an old crater to make room for the new one. But from our dreamlike distance, this does not look chaotic. It looks like texture. It looks like hammered silver, or a dark stone that has been chiseled by 1 billion years of cosmic rain. Each crater is a timestamp. Each pockmark is a recorded moment in the long history of the universe. Callisto is a museum, a library of stone and ice, where the books are never thrown away. Let us drift over its surface and read some of these stories. We see immense structures that defy description. Look there. That is Valhalla. It is not just a crater. It is a masterpiece of ripples. It spans nearly 4,000 kilometers across the face of the moon. When the impact happened, eons ago, the impactor punched through the crust. But the ground here was not solid rock. It was icy and brittle. So, instead of shattering, the surface rippled, Like a stone thrown into a frozen pond, the shock waves traveled outward, freezing instantly in place. Ring after ring after ring, concentric circles stretching out from the center. From high above, it looks like a giant frozen target, or perhaps a fossilized echo. It is a violent moment transformed into eternal stillness. There is another one called Asgard, smaller but just as beautiful. These multi-ring basins are unique to Callisto. They tell us that beneath this hard, battered shell, there was once something soft. As we float lower, we notice something strange about the landscape. It is spiky. The old crater rims have broken down over the aeons. They have eroded, not by wind or rain, but by the slow sublimation of the ice. The sun warms the ice, turning it directly into gas, leaving behind the dark, rocky dust. What is left are the knobs, icy spires and hills that jut out of the dark dust, gleaming white at their peaks. It is a landscape of stark contrast, black dust and white ice, shadow and light. It is a silent, ghostly forest of stone. Callisto is a world of solitude. Unlike its three sisters, Io, Europa, and Ganymede, Callisto does not dance. It is not part of the orbital resonance. It does not get pulled and stretched by the others. It moves alone. Because of this, it does not have the same tidal heat. Its core is cold and quiet. It sleeps a deep, dreamless sleep. And yet, even here, there might be a secret water. Measurements suggest that beneath this thick ancient crust, there might be a salty ocean. It is not kept warm by tidal squeezing, but perhaps by radioactive elements deep in the rock, or simply by the insulating blanket of the ice above. If there is an ocean, it is the stillest water in the solar system. A dark, silent sea that has not moved in eons. There is a sense of safety here, because Callisto sits so far from Jupiter. Outside the deadly radiation belts, it is the most welcoming of the moons for future travelers. Scientists dream that one day, if humans ever travel to the Jovian system, they will build their base here. Imagine a dome on the surface of Callisto. You would look up and see Jupiter, not as a looming giant that fills the sky, but as a beautiful, bright marble in the distance. You would be safe. You would be watching the dance of the inner moons from the quiet balcony of the solar system. It is a home away from home. A way station in the dark. But for now, there are no bases. There are no footprints. There is only the silence. The atmosphere here is vanishingly thin, made of carbon dioxide. It is so thin that the molecules drift for kilometers without ever touching each other. It is a whisper of air, constantly being lost to space, constantly being replenished by the sublimating ice. Callisto is the anchor. It grounds us. After the fire of Io, the mystery of Europa, and the grandeur of Ganymede, Callisto offers us rest. It offers us the comfort of something that does not change. In a life filled with movement and noise, there is something deeply soothing about a rock that simply sits. It accepts the universe as it is. It bears the scars of the past with dignity. It does not try to hide them. It wears its history like a cloak. We float here for a moment, basking in the stillness. We let the silence of Callisto seep into our own minds. The speckled moon turns slowly beneath us. 17 days for one rotation, slow. Steady, reliable. We have reached the end of our tour of the moons. We have seen the children of the giant. But our journey is not quite over. There is one final chapter to this story. We must return to the king, but this time we will not look at him from afar. We will look at him through the eyes of a traveler that is already there. We will look at him through the eyes of Juno, and we will dive deep, past the clouds, past the storms, into the very heart of the mystery. We turn our ship back inward, back towards the amber glow, back towards the center. We have circled the kingdom. We have drifted past the sentinel moons, the fire of Io, the ice of Europa, the shield of Ganymede, and the memory of Callisto. We have seen the family that surrounds the throne, but now the gravity pulls us back to the center. We return to the sovereign himself. We return to the vast amber sphere that hangs in the darkness. But this time, we are not just looking at the surface. We are not content to simply watch the clouds drift by. We want to know what lies beneath. We want to know the heart of the king. And we are not alone in this desire. There is a companion here with us. If you look closely, floating like a tiny speck of dust against the immense backdrop of the planet, you might see a silhouette. It is a machine, built by human hands, sent on a journey of millions of miles to be our eyes and ears in the dark. This is Juno, the traveler. It arrived here on the 5th of July, 2016, inserting itself into a daring orbit around the giant head. It is a beautiful machine. It has 3 massive solar panels that stretch out like the blades of a windmill, catching the faint sunlight that reaches this far into the solar system. Because it needs stability to survive the harsh environment, Juno spins. It rotates slowly, continuously, like a cosmic dervish or a fidget spinner floating in the void. It is a rhythmic motion, round and round, mimicking the rotation of the planet it studies. Juno performs a dance that no other traveler has dared before. It does not stay in a safe, circular orbit. Instead, it dives. It follows a highly elliptical path, a long, looping oval. For weeks it drifts far out into space, millions of kilometers away, resting in the quiet. And then, gravity takes hold. It begins to fall. It accelerates, faster and faster, screaming toward the planet. It aims for a needle's eye. It slips through a narrow gap between the top of the atmosphere and the deadly radiation belts that surround the equator. It is a thread passing through a needle. For a few precious hours, it skims the cloud tops, passing only 4,000 kilometers above the storms. It is closer than we have ever been. Imagine riding with Juno on this dive. You are falling toward a wall of clouds that fills your entire vision. The great red spot is no longer a small oval. It is a continent of wind beneath you. The cyclones at the poles are churning wheels of blue and white, and as you fly over, you are listening. Juno listens to the planet. It listens to the microwave radiation leaking out from the deep. Let us follow that signal. Let us use our imagination to do what the traveler cannot. Let us pass through the clouds and sink into the depths. We go down. We pass through the white ammonia crystals, the icy veil we saw from above. We pass through the brown ammonium hydrosulfide clouds. The light of the sun begins to fade. The pale yellow turns to a deep twilight orange, and then to a heavy, crushing black. We are entering the realm of pressure. Here, the atmosphere is not just air. It is a weight. It presses in from all sides, heavier than the deepest ocean on Earth. The winds here are not just surface breezes, they are deep currents. We see the roots of the Great Red Spot, extending hundreds of kilometers down, a pillar of storm that has no bottom. We see strange weather here. In the darkness, there are flashes of light, lightning. But it is not just fire. It is accompanied by hail. Not ice hail, but mush balls, slushy balls of ammonia and water, falling like heavy stones through the gloom. We sink deeper, 3,000 kilometers down, 5,000. The gas is changing. It is becoming thicker, denser. The boundary between gas and liquid is disappearing. There is no splash, no surface where an ocean begins. The atmosphere simply becomes fluid. We have entered the largest ocean in the solar system, but it is not made of water. It is made of hydrogen. On Earth, hydrogen is a light, airy gas. But here, crushed under the weight of the world, it is forced into a state that exists nowhere on the surface of our planet. It becomes liquid metallic hydrogen. Imagine a sea of liquid metal. It is dark, but it conducts electricity. It flows like mercury, heavy and slow. This is the mantle of Jupiter. This is 80% of the planet's radius. We are swimming in a dark, electrically charged sea. This is the source of the magic. As this metallic ocean churns and flows, driven by the planet's rapid rotation and internal heat, it generates the magnetic field. It is the dynamo. This swirling metal creates the invisible shield that protects the moons, the force that lights up the auroras, the voice that sings in the radio spectrum. We are inside the engine of the king. It is hot here, tens of thousands of degrees. But the pressure holds us tight, a crushing embrace that feels almost like safety. Nothing can move here without the planet's permission. And what lies at the very center? For a long time, we thought there was a hard, rocky seed, a diamond in the rough, a solid core of rock and ice that started it all. But Juno has whispered a different truth to us. The gravity data tells us that the core is fuzzy. It is not a solid ball with a sharp edge. It is dissolved. The rock and ice that were once the seed of Jupiter have melted. They have mixed with the metallic hydrogen. The core has expanded, spreading out, diluting itself into the ocean above it. There is no center. There is only a gradual deepening, a heart that has no walls. It is a beautiful, poetic concept. The king has no hard edges inside. He is fluid all the way down. He is a mixture of stardust and gas, swirling in a slow, billion-year mixing bowl. It reminds us that boundaries are often illusions. Gas becomes liquid. Rock becomes liquid. Core becomes mantle. Or everything is connected. Everything is one. We begin to rise now. We float up from the metallic depths, up through the gloom, up through the storm roots, until we break the surface of the clouds again. We find Juno there, finishing its dive, spinning its way back out into the cold, clear vacuum. The traveler is tired. It has been working for years, braving the radiation, taking the pictures, sending the songs of the planet back to Earth. Its solar panels are weathering the storm of particles. Its orbit is evolving. Someday, the mission will end. But it will not end in silence. It will end in a reunion. NASA has planned a final maneuver for the traveler. To protect the innocent moons, to make sure that no earthly bacteria ever accidentally touches the pristine ice of Europa or Ganymede, Juno will be given one last command. It will turn its thrusters. It will slow down. And it will descend into the atmosphere of Jupiter 1 last time. It will not skip off the atmosphere. It will enter. It will become a shooting star in the skies of the giant. It will glow bright for a moment, a tiny spark against the vast amber clouds. And then it will melt. It will vaporize. The atoms of aluminum, silicon, and gold that make up its body will drift apart. They will mix with the hydrogen and helium. They will become part of the winds. They will sink down into the metallic ocean. The traveler will become one with the king. It is not a death. It is a transformation. Juno will remain there forever, a part of the planet it loved so much, a part of the storm, a part of the silence. It is a comforting thought to know that in the end, we simply return to the universe that made us. We dissolve into the flow. As we drift away now, pulling back from the close-up view, we see Jupiter as a whole again. The storms look like brushstrokes. The moons look like pearls. We understand it better now. We know the fire in its moon, Io. We know the water in its moon, Europa. We know the shield of Ganymede. We know the memory of Callisto. And we know the liquid, metallic heart that beats inside the giant itself. We have explored the Jovian dream. The distance grows. The planet begins to shrink in our window, returning to the size of a marble, then a star, then a glimmer. We are drifting back toward home, but we carry the stillness of the giant with us. We are ready to rest. Thank you for drifting through the galaxy with me tonight. We have traveled a great distance together. We have flown across the velvet emptiness of space, leaving the blue marble of Earth far behind, to visit the sovereign of shadows. We have spent our time in the court of the king. We have witnessed the slow, eternal turning of the great red eye, watching it sleep in the southern sky. We have felt the protective embrace of the heavy gravity that holds the solar system together. We have danced with the fire of Io, floated over the hidden oceans of Europa and Ganymede, and rested on the ancient silent stones of Callisto. And we have dived deep, past the veil of clouds, into the liquid metallic heart where the planet hums its secret song. But now the journey is drawing to a close. The gravity that pulled us outward is now gently releasing us. As we drift away, imagine the giant planet receding in the distance. The vibrant bands of cloud, the cream, the ochre, the deep rust begin to blur together. The great sphere shrinks smaller and smaller until it is no longer a world that fills your vision, but a beautiful glowing amber jewel set against the black velvet of the night. It returns to its place in the dark, a silent guardian, a watcher in the shadows. It will continue to turn, just as it has for billions of years. The storms will spin, the moons will trace their perfect circles, the auroras will light up the poles with invisible fire. All of this will happen without you needing to watch it. It will happen while you rest. There is a profound comfort in knowing that the universe is so large and so capable. It carries on its work with a steady, rhythmic perfection. The planets do not need us to push them. The stars do not need us to light them. We are free to let go. We are free to simply be small, safe passengers on our own little world, drifting through the same quiet sea. If these calm, curious explorations help you unwind, I invite you to like or subscribe. It helps other sleepy souls find their way here too. And now, let all of that drift away. Let the images of the giant clouds dissolve. Let the colors fade into a soft, comforting gray. Let the knowledge you have gathered settle in your mind like dust settling on a quiet library shelf. You do not need to remember anything now. You do not need to analyze. You do not need to think. Your mind has done enough work for today. It has traveled millions of miles. It has touched the stars. Now, it is time for it to come home. Bring your attention back to the here and now. Feel the softness of the pillow beneath your head. It is your own personal gravity, holding you gently, supporting you just as the fabric of space supports the planets. Feel the warmth of your blanket. It is your own atmosphere, protecting you, keeping you safe and warm in the night. Feel the rhythm of your breathing, in and out, slow, steady. It is the same rhythm that moves the tides of Europa. It is the same rhythm that expands and contracts the universe. You are part of that great, slow dance. Well, you are not separate from the stars. The atoms that make up your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, they were forged in the same cosmic fires that built the worlds we visited tonight. You are made of stardust, and stardust, eventually, likes to rest. Let your body become heavy. Let your feet relax, sinking into the mattress. Let your legs grow heavy and still. Let your hands soften, your fingers curling gently like sleeping flowers. Let your shoulders drop, releasing the last bit of tension from the day. Let your jaw relax. Let your eyes settle behind your closed lids. There is nothing left to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. The past is a memory, fading behind you. The future is a dream, waiting for tomorrow. There is only this moment, this quiet, dark, peaceful moment. The solar system is in balance. The guardian Jupiter is watching the outer gates. The Earth is spinning smoothly on its axis. Everything is in its right place. You can let go. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the darkness behind your eyes. It is not an empty darkness. It is a velvet softness. It is a warm ocean of sleep waiting to catch you. Drift down, just as Juno drifted into the mists. Sink down, deeper and deeper into the calm. The universe will continue its dance. The stars will continue their long, slow orbits. You are safe. You are loved by the gravity of existence. Close your eyes. Rest and dream of a quiet, radiant sea of stars. Good night.